The Mafia boss suddenly collides with his 7 months pregnant ex-girlfriend at the hotel begins on a morning that looks ordinary from the outside but carries the weight of many hidden truths. The hotel stands in the center of a busy American city, tall and polished, with glass doors that open and close non-stop. Inside, the lobby is filled with soft music, rolling suitcases, quiet conversations, and the smell of fresh coffee. Business people hurry past tourists, and no one pays much attention to anyone else. It feels like just another day, the kind of day where lives cross paths without noticing. But sometimes, life chooses one moment to change everything. The Mafia boss enters the hotel with calm confidence. He is in his early 40s, well-dressed, and controlled in every movement. His face shows no emotion, but his eyes are sharp and alert, always watching. This hotel is one of many places where he holds meetings, but today's visit is supposed to be quick and simple. He has power, money, and respect, yet deep inside, he carries a quiet loneliness that never leaves him. No one around him knows that beneath his strong image, there are memories he tries hard to forget. At the same time, Grace steps into the lobby through the same glass doors, unaware of how close the past is to her. She is 7 months pregnant, her belly clearly visible under her loose coat. She moves slowly, carefully, feeling the familiar pressure in her back and legs. Grace has learned to be patient with her body, just as she has learned to be patient with life. She is here for a job interview, hoping to secure a stable position before her baby is born. Her life has not been easy, but she has grown stronger through struggle. Grace pauses near the entrance, taking a deep breath to calm herself. The hotel feels intimidating, too big and too perfect for someone like her. She reminds herself that she belongs here just as much as anyone else. She adjusts the folder in her hands, filled with documents and resumes, and begins walking toward the front desk. Her thoughts are focused on her future, on rent, doctor visits, and the small crib she is saving up to buy. The past is the last thing on her mind. As Grace moves forward and the Mafia boss turns a corner near the reception area, fate steps in without warning. They collide gently but firmly, shoulder to shoulder. The impact is not painful, but it is enough to make Grace lose her balance slightly. Papers slip from her hands and scatter across the shiny floor. For a brief moment, the noise of the lobby fades away, replaced by a heavy silence that only the two of them seem to feel. The Mafia boss looks down instinctively to help, but when he lifts his eyes, his breath catches. Standing in front of him is Grace. Her face has changed slightly with time, softer and more tired, yet unmistakably hers. Her eyes, once full of warmth and hope, now hold caution and strength. Then his gaze drops to her belly, and his world tilts. He does not need to ask questions. The truth hits him harder than any threat ever has. Grace freezes when she recognizes him. Her heart begins to race, and her hands tremble. She did not expect this man to ever reappear in her life, especially not like this. Memories rush back, late nights, whispered promises, and the fear that finally pushed her to leave. For months, she has built her life around not needing him, around surviving without his shadow. And now, here he is, standing in front of her like a ghost from another life. Neither of them speaks at first. The air between them feels thick and heavy. Around them, people continue walking, checking phones, laughing, and living their normal lives, unaware that something powerful is unfolding just a few feet away. The Mafia boss slowly bends down to gather the scattered papers. His movements are careful, almost gentle, as if he is afraid that one wrong move might make Grace disappear. Grace watches him closely. Her emotions mixed and confusing. She feels anger for the pain he caused, fear of what he represents, and a strange sadness for what they once had. She reaches down to take the papers from his hands, their fingers brushing for a second. That small touch sends a shock through both of them, reminding them of a connection they never truly erased. He finally speaks her name softly, as if testing whether it still belongs to her. Grace answers with a quiet nod, not trusting her voice. She straightens her posture, placing a protective hand over her belly without thinking. This simple action speaks louder than words. It tells him that her priorities have changed, that her life no longer revolves around him. The Mafia boss feels something crack inside him. He has faced enemies, police, and betrayal without fear, but this moment leaves him unprepared. Seeing Grace pregnant makes him realize how much time he has lost and how deeply his choices have affected others. For the first time in years, he feels truly powerless. As hotel staff begin to notice the tension, the Mafia boss gestures toward a nearby seating area, silently asking if they can talk. Grace hesitates. Every instinct tells her to walk away, to protect herself and her unborn child. But another part of her wants answers, wants to face the past instead of running from it again. With a slow, careful step, Grace agrees to sit, knowing that this unexpected meeting is not just a coincidence but a turning point. In that crowded hotel lobby, surrounded by strangers, two lives that once separated by fear and choices are now forced to face each other again. And this moment, simple and sudden, becomes the beginning of a story neither of them can escape. After the initial shock of the encounter, Grace and the Mafia boss sit down at a corner table in the hotel's cafe. The low hum of conversations and the clinking of coffee cups around them seems distant, as if the world outside their bubble has paused. Grace's hands rest protectively on her belly, and the Mafia boss leans slightly forward, his elbows on the table, his usually sharp posture softened by unease. For a moment, they just look at each other, the weight of years and unspoken words hanging heavily between them. Memories of their past life together flood their minds. He remembers the way she used to laugh at the smallest jokes, the late-night walks they shared in the city, and the dreams they built together before his world of danger and crime tore them apart. Grace recalls the promises he made, the excitement of their young love, and the betrayal she felt when she realized that his life choices had no room for her or the child she carries now. Both of them feel the ache of what they lost, but each carries it in different ways, he with quiet guilt, she with cautious strength. Grace breaks the silence first, her voice steady but tinged with emotion. She tells him how difficult it has been to live alone, to raise a child in a world that feels uncertain. She speaks about the small victories, finding a modest apartment, saving for doctor visits, and trying to create a life that is safe and stable. She does not hide the hardships, nor does she exaggerate her struggles. Every word is measured, honest, and raw. The Mafia boss listens in silence, every sentence a reminder of the consequences of his past actions. He feels a twist in his chest, a mix of regret and longing that he has not allowed himself to feel in years. He thinks about the moments he could have been there for her, the choices he could have made, and the life that might have been theirs. He knows he cannot turn back time, yet the weight of the present moment presses on him with undeniable force. As the conversation unfolds, Grace shares how she made the difficult decision to leave the city when she discovered she was pregnant. She tells him about the loneliness, the fear, and the strength she had to summon each day just to survive. She explains that she did not want her child to grow up in a life surrounded by crime, violence, and constant danger. Her words are calm, yet they carry the power of someone who has endured far more than she should have. The Mafia boss feels the sting of every word. He remembers promising her protection and a life together, and he knows he failed her. He looks at her now, not as the woman he once knew, but as a mother, strong and independent, who has built a world without him. This realization hits harder than any threat he has ever faced in his life, and for the first time, he feels truly vulnerable. As they continue talking, silence occasionally falls between them, filled with reflection rather than discomfort. Grace watches him carefully, noticing the subtle changes in his demeanor, how his eyes, once sharp and calculating, now show a trace of remorse and softness. She realizes that the man in front of her is not just the powerful figure the city fears, but someone capable of feeling deeply, of acknowledging mistakes, and perhaps even of change. She wonders if redemption is truly possible for him, or if the life he has chosen is too deeply rooted to allow for a clean break. The Mafia boss, in turn, studies her face and sees the scars life has left, both visible and hidden. He understands that the woman before him is not the same girl he loved but someone far stronger, molded by adversity, and capable of raising a life on her own terms. The conversation slowly shifts from the past to the unspoken truths of the present. Grace tells him about her hopes and fears for the baby, her desire for safety, and her unwillingness to compromise her child's future for old ties. Her words are firm, but there is a quiet vulnerability beneath the strength. The Mafia boss nods slowly, knowing that he must listen and respect her choices. He admits that he wishes things had been different, that he wishes he had been able to protect her and build a life that would allow them both to be happy. There is no excuse for the past, only acknowledgement of the pain he caused. Grace senses the sincerity in his voice, though she does not allow herself to hope too much. Trust is something she has learned to guard fiercely, and she knows that words alone will not rebuild what was lost. As the afternoon wears on, the intensity of the emotions between them does not diminish. They talk about the dreams they once shared, the life they imagined, and the moments that now seem lost forever. For the Mafia boss, each word is a reminder of what his power and ambition cost him. For Grace, every sentence is a test of whether this man, once so central to her life, can now be someone who respects boundaries and priorities. Though the cafe around them is busy with ordinary life, for them, time seems suspended. This encounter, though unplanned and sudden, forces them both to confront feelings that have been buried for years. The past is no longer distant, it is alive in their conversation, alive in their shared history, and alive in the choices that will shape their future. By the time they leave the cafe, there is a mutual understanding that this meeting is not a simple coincidence. It carries the weight of unfinished business and unspoken emotions. Both feel the pull of the past and the uncertainty of what is to come, yet there is also a strange sense of possibility. Grace walks with careful steps, protecting her unborn child, while the Mafia boss follows silently, aware that he is facing the consequences of his actions and that redemption, if possible, will require more than words. This is the beginning of a journey that neither of them can ignore. A collision of past and present that will challenge their strength, courage, and hearts. Ava's entrance into the story brings a shift in energy, grounding the tension and introducing a new perspective. She is the Mafia boss's longtime assistant, known for her sharp intelligence, calm demeanor, and ability to navigate both the dangerous world he inhabits and the complex emotions that come with it. She finds him in the cafe, observing Grace from a distance, and immediately senses the unusual tension in the air. Ava has seen him in countless high-pressure situations, from business negotiations to threats from rivals, yet the expression on his face now is unlike anything she has witnessed before. It is a mixture of shock, regret, and vulnerability, and she knows that Grace is the reason. Ava approaches cautiously, offering a polite smile to Grace before speaking to the Mafia boss. She suggests they move to a quieter, private space, explaining that Grace might need comfort and support. Though she does not reveal her thoughts openly, Ava understands the significance of this encounter. She has always believed that power and fear cannot fix every problem, and she senses that today, her boss is confronting the consequences of his personal choices rather than his criminal empire. Grace, initially hesitant, allows Ava to guide them to a private lounge. The gesture surprises her. She had expected hostility or indifference, but Ava's presence brings an unexpected sense of safety. Once seated in the lounge, Ava offers Grace water and makes small talk, helping her relax while subtly observing the interaction between her boss and the pregnant woman. She notices the softness in her boss's behavior, a side of him rarely seen by the outside world. Ava quietly reminds him that responsibility extends beyond business or reputation, it touches real lives, like Grace and the child she carries. Her words are firm but compassionate, and he listens, absorbing the weight of her wisdom. Ava's insight helps Grace see that this is not just a fleeting encounter, it is a chance for real change. Throughout the afternoon, Ava plays the role of mediator and silent observer. She does not interfere with their conversation unless necessary, but her calm presence allows Grace to feel less exposed. She also gives the Mafia boss a mirror to reflect on his behavior, showing him that power without humanity leaves life empty. As Grace slowly begins to trust that these men may not be threats, Ava's presence becomes a stabilizing factor. Grace starts to notice a different side of the Mafia boss, a man capable of acknowledging mistakes, of listening without judgment, and perhaps even capable of seeking a better life. Ava's subtle guidance transforms a potentially confrontational meeting into a moment of reflection, opening the door for honesty, accountability, and the possibility of redemption. This encounter marks the beginning of a delicate journey. Ava's role ensures that emotions do not spiral out of control, that boundaries are respected, and that both Grace and the Mafia boss can begin to understand each other in a new way. In this private space, free from the watchful eyes of strangers, the past collides with the present, and decisions made here will ripple through their lives forever. Ava's quiet influence demonstrates that even in a world filled with danger and power, empathy, patience, and wisdom can create space for healing and hope. The conversation between Grace and the Mafia boss becomes heavier as the afternoon stretches into evening. The hotel lounge, now quieter with fewer guests, provides an intimate backdrop where their words carry weight and consequence. Grace, holding her belly gently, looks at him with a calm resolve, one born from months of struggle and self-reliance. She tells him plainly that her child's safety is her priority, more important than any power, money, or promises he could offer. She speaks of her fears honestly, of the nights she spent worrying about raising a child alone, and how she refuses to let anyone, even someone she once loved, endanger that life. Her words are direct, yet there is no bitterness, only a firm clarity that forces the Mafia boss to confront the reality he has tried to avoid for years. He listens in silence, the weight of guilt pressing on him. Every sentence she utters acts like a mirror, reflecting the consequences of the choices he has made in his pursuit of power, wealth, and control. He admits, for the first time in years, that he wishes he could undo the past. He speaks quietly about the dangerous path he has chosen, how it consumed him, and how it forced him to prioritize his empire over the people he loved most. He confesses that he has thought about leaving the criminal world behind for a long time, yet fear, reputation, and years of entrenchment held him back. Seeing Grace now, pregnant and independent, awakens a new sense of urgency. He recognizes that he cannot change history, but he can try to shape the future differently. He tells her he intends to step down from his role, to hand over control to trusted associates, and to pursue a life that is honest and safe, even if it is a smaller, quieter life than the one he built in power. The words are heavy with sincerity, and even though Grace remains guarded, she senses the depth of his determination. Grace does not respond immediately. She understands the difficulty of leaving behind a life that has defined him for so long, yet she also knows that promises alone are not enough. She explains that trust must be earned, that a genuine change in behavior is what will determine whether he can be part of her child's life. She lays out her conditions gently but firmly, emphasizing that safety, honesty, and stability are non-negotiable. The Mafia boss nods, accepting the challenge without protest. For the first time, he feels accountable not only to her, but to the life growing inside her, a life that he now sees as both fragile and precious. Ava, observing quietly from a distance, supports this shift, understanding that her boss's path to redemption will require both commitment and guidance. The afternoon's conversation, filled with honesty and vulnerability, plants the first seeds of a new beginning, though the road ahead remains uncertain and challenging. By the time they rise to leave the lounge, a subtle but profound change has taken place. Grace walks with measured steps, her mind focused on her child's future, while the Mafia boss follows, silent but thoughtful, aware that he has a responsibility he can no longer ignore. Ava remains close, ready to guide him through the practicalities of leaving a life he has known for decades. Though there are no immediate resolutions, both Grace and the Mafia boss feel a sense of purpose. They are confronting hard truths, facing difficult choices, and acknowledging that real change is possible, but only if it is backed by consistent action and commitment. The moment that began as a sudden collision has become a turning point, one that will define the next chapter of their lives. As night falls over the city, the hotel lobby is quiet, the golden glow of the lamps casting long shadows across the polished floors. Grace prepares to leave, carefully balancing the weight of her body and the folder she has carried through the day. The Mafia boss walks beside her, keeping a respectful distance, his expression a mixture of contemplation and quiet determination. There is no grand declaration, no emotional embrace, only a shared understanding that the encounter has shifted the trajectory of both their lives. He hands her a small card with his personal contact information, a gesture that is simple yet laden with meaning. It is an invitation, not a demand, signaling that he is willing to earn a place in her life and the life of her unborn child, but only through actions, not words. Grace accepts it, nodding silently, her face a mixture of caution and hope. The journey ahead is uncertain for both of them. Grace knows she must continue protecting her child and building a life that is safe and stable. She walks out of the hotel doors, the cool night air brushing against her face, feeling the weight of both independence and possibility. Each step is deliberate, a reminder of her strength and the life she is creating. Behind her, the Mafia boss watches, a mixture of regret, resolve, and unexpected tenderness in his gaze. He knows that he must prove himself through consistent actions, leaving behind the dangerous world he has controlled for decades and forging a path toward redemption. For the first time, the idea of a future built on honesty, peace, and care feels achievable, though it will not be easy. Ava stays close to him as he turns back toward the hotel's private quarters, silently offering guidance and support. She knows that leaving behind a world of power and influence is never simple, but she also understands that this is the right path. Her presence serves as a reminder that even in a life shaped by fear and dominance, there is room for compassion, patience, and growth. For the Mafia boss, this evening marks a profound awakening, the realization that life's most important victories are not won through control or intimidation, but through love, responsibility, and the courage to change. Grace reaches her car and pauses before driving away, looking at the skyline of the city she once left behind. A small sense of hope fills her heart. She does not yet know whether she will fully trust him again, but she acknowledges that people can change if given the chance. The encounter, sudden and unexpected, has created a fragile bridge between past regrets and potential futures. Meanwhile, the Mafia boss stands in the hotel lobby one last time, watching her leave, silently promising himself that he will no longer allow fear, pride, or ambition to dictate his life. This collision, which at first seemed disruptive and painful, becomes the first step toward healing, responsibility, and a future shaped not by past mistakes, but by conscious, deliberate choices. In the quiet of the night, both Grace and the Mafia boss step into a world of possibilities, each determined to build a life that honors truth, safety, and the fragile but powerful force of hope.